Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the information session about the Avenue Law Internship Program. You can feel free to have your video on or off. I do appreciate those who have it on, just so that I don't feel like I'm talking to the void, but I realize you might be at home wearing comfortable clothes, eating snacks or dinner. So in that case, also feel free. I should also note that this session is being recorded for those who might want to check back in and cannot make this particular session. So just wanted to flag that. This info session is going to last about an hour. I'm hoping that it'll be fairly casual. I'm going to spend about 35 minutes or so to talk generally about what the internship program is about, what you can expect, and spend the bulk of the time about tips for applying, any information about how to be successful as an applicant, and so on, and then open up about 15 to 20 minutes or so for Q&A. Let me try to get a sense of the room. First of all, you will see some functions at the bottom of your screen for reactions or a raise hand function. Maybe, yeah, if you click on reactions, there will be like a raise hand function. Has anybody looked at the website for Avenue Internship Program yet? Raise your hand if you have. Two of you, okay. Perfect. Feel free to lower your hand, all three of you. Lower your hand. Are you at your third or fourth year of undergraduate students or recent graduates? If yes, raise your hand. Or about half of you. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so some overview about the Avenue program to begin with. I will expect no background knowledge, actually, given that many of you probably haven't had any overview. So Avenue Internship Program is an initiative that was created and started 2 years ago. We're going into our third year of effort with 2024 application cycle, where about 14 of law firms and one corporation got together as leaders in the industry and said, we would like to improve the pipeline, the diversity of the pipeline of talent that comes into the legal industry. Or in order for us to do that, we would like to create some opportunities for undergraduate students who are thinking of pursuing a career in law and or applying to law school, and give them access to what working at a law firm is like, what working in law and legal industry is like, and what doing practicing business law is like, so that they can get some sense of what that entails to confirm or deepen their interest in pursuing law and applying to law school, and potentially help them with building some resume items so that it would help you with applying to law school, and also inform your approaches when you select employers as you go through law school and after your law school. So the initiative started 2 years ago with, as I said, about 15 employers getting together. This year we have about, well, this year's summer we had about 35-ish positions open for all Avenue interns. The bulk of the positions were available in Toronto, but we did have some positions open in Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, and I believe Ottawa as well. And I expect it'll be similar next year as well. We might have slightly more open positions because we do still get some employers who actually want to subscribe to and participate in the program, and we're still kind of sorting that out. So I would say maybe total about 35 to 40 positions that may be open. And what it is once you apply through the website, the link for which I will share later, you will be placed into a pool of all the applicants. It'll go through a first initial screening that essentially screens out non-eligible students and applications that are not complete. And of the applications that are complete and of the students that are eligible, all of the participating employers will review, select the ones that they would like to interview for the position, do some interviews of some of the students, and then they make an offer to each of the students. Once you are selected as an Avenue intern, you are then placed in each of the participating employer's workplace for at least 12 weeks. So 12 weeks is the minimum commitment that each employer makes. Some employer may wish to hire you for slightly longer, depending on what their summer programming looks like. And the summer internship would look fairly different from one organization to the other, but the common thread will be you will have some access to legal work, including research, document management, access to some of the files that people are working on, access to lawyers who are working on various things, some mentorship and professional development opportunities, both within the organization itself and as a group, as an Avenue cohort group together. Throughout the summer, each of the participating organizations will prepare about 3 or 4 different professional development events and opportunities available to all student groups who are participating in the Avenue program, ranging from tips on how to apply to law schools, how to prepare your applications, panel discussions with senior legal leaders in the industry, Black legal leaders, and talking about their leadership journey and what you can expect as lawyers, and other types of professional development and skills development portions. So those things will be offered to all Avenue interns, and on top of that, each organization will have specific programs for each of the interns and so on. The hourly rate will be $21 per hour, and you will be guaranteed a full-time position. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We are, in terms of eligibility, we are looking for at least 3rd or 4th year at your undergrad or recent grads. And for those of you who are in Quebec, if there are any CEGEP recent graduates. And as an Avenue intern, you also get up to $3,000 of scholarship / bursary, which will remain in effect up to 3 years after the internship, which will be available to you in order to defray the cost of any LSAT courses that you might want to take, fees for LSAT prep courses, fees for taking the LSAT, law school preparations or law school fee entrance fees, or your tuition if you have applied and gotten it. So you can get that bursary up to $3,000 as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the Avenue Internship Program is. I see the question on the chat. Is there any chance for second years? Unfortunately, for this year and likely onwards, no. So in the first 2 years, we did make it open to all years of undergrads. But we found that for the most part, job opportunities would go to the more senior undergraduate students. One, because the junior undergraduate students had opportunities to apply again later in senior years. And 2, because if you're more senior, you're far more ready and skilled in terms of what the range of work that you can take on and the kinds of stuff that you do. And it is slightly closer to your journey. You're closer to applying for law school, such that this internship is far more meaningful and effective for you. Yes, please do. But this information session would be helpful to you in any case, so that you can get some insights on what might be involved. Is there a similar program available for current law students, like a non-OCI internship? Not as a whole. So the reason why Avenue Internship Program is unique is because we have pulled together all the resources as employers, and this happens under a single program banner, right? And we hire many students as a group. For current law students, outside of the summer law program that each law firm runs, there may be different opportunities as an intern on various administrative functions and so on, or just as a law student, but that would be run by each organization, each employer, and there isn't anything like Avenue Internship Program, which is run as an industry kind of initiative. Can you only do the internship program once? Is there flexibility on the start date? Internship program, typically you would expect to do it only once. So if you have gone through the program, you will essentially be folded into the group of folks who are considered alumni. So, and we will keep contact and list of people who are alumni. We have previously not done anything, but there are plans to engage the Avenue alumni separately. There are some law schools who would like to make some programs available for Avenue alumni specifically in terms of providing more professional development sessions for them, or connecting them with current law students for one-on-one mentorship and so on. So all of this is still very much in planning phase and may or may not occur, but that's the kind of the idea for engaging the alumni afterwards. There are no rules per se in terms of, you know, if you've done the Avenue internship once and you would like to apply again, no one is going to stop you per se. But because the application process is fairly competitive, it is highly likely that if you've done it once, the preference would go to a person who's applying for the first time and is looking for an opportunity for the first time rather than somebody who's returning. I should mention something about the substance of the kind of work that you would get to do. So I mentioned some of the, and gave you some examples of the legal work that you might be expected to do: research, file management, document management, access to lawyers, and so on. You might also had opportunities to engage yourself in various business functions within the law firms or within the organization that you work with. So each organization might have adjacent business functions that help the lawyers do their job, but is not necessarily legal work. So there may be some research work that you do as part of the library team. Law librarians, law firms typically have law librarians and library teams, and then they may hold longer term research projects for which interns might be engaged to support. There may be other types of business initiatives, whether it's from marketing or client support or EDI even. So for example, myself, I'm a senior manager of diversity and inclusion at one of the participating law firms, Osler Huskin Harcourt LLP. And I sometimes ask my Avenue students to help me out on some of the research and operational and events initiatives relating to EDI programs during the summer, and they will help out on some of those capacities. We also make available, for example, volunteer opportunities for law students and Avenue students. So there may be opportunities as an Avenue student for you to volunteer with various nonprofits out there for legal industries, such as the Black Law Students Association of Canada, or Black Future Lawyers, or any other type of nonprofits that might be out there. They might reach out to us as organizers and say, hey, can you give me some support on preparing a bylaw for our non-for-profit, or doing some research on anti-racism, or and so on. And then some of those tasks I might ask our interns, hey, would you be interested in taking this on, and so on. So the range of work could vary very much in terms of what you can get and what kind of access you have. So that's generally about the internship. Feel free to do chat type whatever questions that might come to you. This is great. Some tips for applying. So on the website for application, you will be asked for basically 4 major components of the application: 1 CV/resume, 2 personal statements, 3 transcripts, and 4 optionally references. I would say, well, all of those elements are important, except for references, which is optional. I would say for a successful application actually do stand out when, like, from the employer side, when you see all of the applications. If you put in your care and effort and thought into the application, it will definitely stand out far, far more than the ones who put it in kind of in a rush manner and so on. So the application process generally is fairly competitive. So I mentioned, as I said, we have about 35 to 40 maybe-ish positions available to all Avenue interns. The first year we got about 220 applications total. Second year we got about the same. This year we're expecting slightly more now that the program is established and a lot more people know about it. So the competition is fairly high. I will say, however, not insignificant number of people get screened out at the initial stage for reasons that are highly fixable. So some applications that get screened out because they're ineligible. Some get screened out because the application is incomplete. So all of the elements that are required submissions have to be in there. If they're not, it won't even go through the review process at all. It'll just get screened out as incomplete applications. So first tip, put in all of your elements in and review that all of those are submitted. And then third, once you go through the initial application stage, I would say in your personal statement, it is very, very helpful if you can tell your story as to why you are interested in exploring a career in law and or applying to law school, right? This internship is about giving access and opportunity for those folks who do have an interest in pursuing this direction. The more specific and clear and compelling your reasons for wanting to apply and have this opportunity, the better it is for employers to get to know you, first of all, and to be interested in wanting to find out more about what your story is and why you're interested, and wanting to meet with you to discuss how the internship could benefit you. If you have done anything prior to Avenue relating to exploration of the legal industry that you can highlight, if you've done any research projects, paid or unpaid volunteer opportunities at a court or at a small law firm or at some capacity that relates to the law, if you have applied to law school, all of those are relevant information. Do feel free to put that in, and that would be useful. Some really basic things like watching out for grammar, style, and details like that. Very, very important. Sometimes it gets missed, like proper formatting, proper grammar and style, and proper written applications will make a huge difference in whether or not your application is successful. CV and resume, I won't say too much about any of this. The successful interns and the range of interns, the range of experiences and backgrounds and so on that they carry and that they bring is vast and diverse, and there isn't any particular set of experiences that we are looking for. As I said, it might be helpful if there are some things that could indicate your specific interest in law and some efforts that you've done. If you've been involved in Black BFL, for example, Black Future Lawyers Initiative, like anything around that would be helpful. But again, not determinative of whether or not you're successful. We are looking for a range of talents. We are looking for a range of backgrounds. We are looking for a range of interested folks who could benefit from an opportunity like this. Transcripts, again, I won't say much more than that. If you're curious, we do not have a cutoff or anything of that nature. And transcript is, for many employers, the less important piece. The personal statement, and personal statement probably is the most important for a lot of employers about what you are, what you bring, and what you're looking for, and what you are about. CV and resume probably second, and transcript probably third. But this is just to indicate for the employers your academic strength and your ability to work hard, your conscientiousness, and so on. So include it so that people can take a look. And references, again, it's entirely optional, but if there are contacts that you think could speak to some of the core skills that would be asked of you, so things like research supports, working in teams, working in business settings for some of the business law firms, and or somebody who could speak to your interest in law, any of those folks, or somebody who can speak to your character. Any of those folks would be very good candidates for as your referee. You do not have to worry about the identity or position of referee. Like, it's not, your application is not going to be accorded more important just because your referee is a more important person versus a less senior person. None of that matters. It's about the content, how compellingly that person can talk about who you are and what you can bring and what you are about. So the more they know you and the more they can speak about on behalf of you, the better. So it could also be somebody at an organization that you volunteer for example. Any of those folks are completely fine. And I think that is generally it as an overview. Dara, I'm doing well. How are you? Any questions, any reactions, anything you want me to repeat, anything at all? Feel free to type, feel free to unmute and chat. This session is meant to be helpful for you.
I don't know where my hand went, so I'll just ask the question. Where are the reactions? Okay. Sorry, I missed your answer on if there's flexibility on the start date.
Oh, let me see. Is there a start date that's set out in the website? Or
it just says like May. I think it says May, but there isn't an exact date.
Yeah.
So do you just discuss that with the employer if they hire you?
Yeah, so it'll generally start in May, generally end in August, but it'll be slightly different. But if you need specific shifts, you are definitely free to let them know either during interviews or after your offer or so on. Are you looking for a very big shift and like you want to start soon, or
just like I prefer like closer to the end of the May, like still obviously get the 12 weeks in, but if possible closer to the end of May, then like right after when school ends.
Yeah, that should be totally fine. I would probably let them know during the interview some of this so that they can know it in advance. And that reminds me of another unique kind of thing about this Avenue Internship Program that I should mention to all of you. So as I mentioned, there's the application review. Employers will reach out to various folks if they're interested in interviews. And then once the interviews are done, they will make offers. So a few questions there. When they're scheduling interviews, each organization will reach out to you based on your contact information that's been provided in the application. So they may email you or they may call you at the phone number that they have provided, that you have provided. And they will schedule an interview, typically about an hour length. You will be doing a virtual call, most likely, with maybe 2 or 3 representatives from the firm who will kind of go over what they've seen in the application, what they found interesting. If they have any follow-up questions, they will ask. Then they will also take the opportunity during that hour to talk about the program and the approach that particular organization has, so that you can get a sense of what you can expect. And they will typically make room available, Clifton, to your point, to make any comments or suggestions or particular requests about the internship. So, for example, for this year's internship, one of the interns that we hired wanted to turn this internship as part of her co-op placement with her school degree program. And so she brought that up during the interviews. And then once we made an offer to her, we worked with the school to make sure that it could work as a co-op placement and so on. So any type of those specific arrangements and asks that you do want to ask of your employer, you should bring it up during the interviews. Some employers might make a decision after one interview. Some employers may ask for a second round of interview with a few more folks, again, somewhat similar process. And then once either the first or the 2 interviews are done, each employer that have met with you, depending on the success of your application, you might be meeting with several of employers, you might be meeting with just one, or so on. They will make an offer to you. The interesting thing about having your internship program, because there's a lot of applicants that go in through the system, and because our goal is to make this system and the process as streamlined as possible, we have set a rule that the first employer that decides to hire a candidate is the employer that's going to be making the offer to the student. So the first employer that decides we want to hire you, Clifton, will let me know as the recruitment coach or volunteer of the Avenue Internship Program. And then I will mark that candidate off the market. And then that employer will then reach out to Clifton and say, congratulations, we would love to hire you. Da, 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 da. If you have concerns about this employer, if you're like, I don't know if I actually want to take the job with you, you can let me know as the recruitment co-chair about those concerns, and then I can backtrack and reverse that process for you. But for the most part, the first employer that makes the decision on hiring you will reach out, and that will be your employer that you are placed with during the summer. What will happen in the back end is, once I've taken the offered candidate off the list, if there's a second employer who comes to me and says, I would love to hire Clifton, I'll then say, sorry, someone else has already taken him. You're gonna have to go for someone else, right? So it's gonna be first come, first serve kind of system. Sorry, there's somebody in the waiting room. Let me just mute her. So that is the unique piece of this particular process, so that there isn't a back and forth between the student and the employer about like what's going to happen, who's going to make an offer, who's going to accept, and so on. So from your perspective, you will submit the application, and during the interview process, or during the interview period, which is I think between February to March, let me just double check so that I have the right information for you. The interview period will run from February 26th to March 29th. So during that time, any one of the participating employers may reach out to you and say, we would love to schedule an interview. And then you would attend the interview. And then at some point, you will hear from one of the firms saying, congratulations, we would love to work with you. And then from then on, you will work with that particular employer in terms of onboarding. So they will have specific processes about onboarding you. There will be an offer letter that you're going to sign. There may be some background checks and setting up bank accounts and so on. So all of that will be handled by that particular employer from that point on. But the offer would always be made by just one employer. And that one employer would essentially be the first person that said, we would like to hire this person. That's kind of how it
just before Ida goes, a couple things. And I'm just listening to you use my name. It'd be a nice problem to have if multiple employers wanted to hire you. But I went through the process actually last year as a second year student. It was fascinating to go through, had multiple interviews, didn't get an offer, but I think it's because I was second year. But one of the things I thought of is there were certain employers that I wanted to work for more than others. So I think what you're saying is that we really don't have a choice, if that's the case. So the only choice I would think I would have then is not to take their interview. If like, because I had like 5 interviews, and like by the time I got to the 4th or 5th one, I thought, well, I'd rather work for these guys or these guys. And as you know, some of the firms are big and some of the firms are smaller. And some of the firms are like downtown or in different locations. So can you just provide a little context into that dilemma?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And this is particularly the dilemma that we thought of as well. Like on the one hand, we wanted to simplify the process, didn't want to make it, too intense and stressful for the folks. But on the other hand, to your point, there may very well be preferences from both parties that get upset because they weren't the first person to raise their hand and say yes. And so that's the pros and cons. We did actually discuss fairly rigorously as an employer group about the alternative of like, can we make some choices available to both parties at some point? What do we think about this alternative? And then we put it to a vote. It was actually fairly close, but the majority still sided with keeping this particular process. So we are going with this particular process for this year and presumably for the foreseeable future. In terms of how you would manage as an individual, if you have a preference of, oh, I would love to work with this firm or that firm, and less so with these other firms. I am now speaking no longer as an official co-chair of the recruitment committee, but just as an individual, as an employer who has participated in this process and someone who's very sympathetic to and very well understand this particular issue. There are some things that you can do to put yourself in the position and communicate strongly to one over the other that you would rather go with someone else, right? So you could, after the interview, if you really liked somebody, you could send an email saying, I really appreciated the opportunity. I would love to work with you. I want to hear from you, right? And that gives them the signal of, oh, he really liked us. And this is something. The other thing that you could do is, again, bearing in mind that it's first come, first serve situation. If prior to the interview, you have some sense of the preferences of the firms that you're like, I would love to, maybe have a chance to meet with these folks first and then get a chance to work at their organization, is to set the interview times based on your preferences. So if somebody is your first kind of top choice, maybe try and schedule their interview first during the interview process, right? Because they're always going to ask you, when are you available to meet with us? And then if you're less interested in somebody, maybe schedule them slightly later. This would naturally give you and them time, the first choice firm, to meet with you and then assess you and then make an offer to you far earlier than the other employers that you would maybe meet much later down the process. So it'll just naturally happen that likely your first choice firm will have far more time and far more time to decide. I would not advise you to say no to an interview, because you just never know. You might meet with them and say, I actually like these guys, and like, whatever, right? So don't do that. But there are some things that you can do to like casually and informally communicate your preferences. And firms do this too, as well. So yeah, so like if I could share my experience, so there was an intern that we really wanted to hire, didn't get to because we weren't the first person on the line, but she was very clear about her interest in us, and we were very clear about our interest in her as well. So then, as I said, all the Avenue cohorts meet as a group for various social and professional development opportunities, right? So then we just kind of kept in touch casually and said like, hey, this is some of the things that we do. Like, we're still going to invite you and like, come join us, do these things together. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to still engage casually and network and build relationships within the industry. And that is the whole point and the benefit of a program like this as well. So I would highly recommend you not to cut any relationships and and still have a way to nurture the relationships that you want to prioritize without alienating others.
Sorry, last quick thing. So firms necessarily don't wait till the end to make the decisions.
If they feel strongly about a candidate, they will make the decision very quickly.
Okay.
Reach out to you very quickly. Yes.
Well, okay. Thanks, Amy.
Thomas.
Yeah, I was just curious, has there ever been a situation, or is it even possible for like an employer outside of your city to reach out to you about a potential opportunity?
They may. It is not likely, but they may. So as far as I understand, there is, I don't know if it should be still the case for this year. For this summer, there was an opportunity for all of the interns to indicate in their application where they are available to work during the summer. So they would say, I'm from this city, I am available to work at, like somebody might say, I'm from Manitoba, but I'm available to work in Calgary, Toronto, or Vancouver. And then each of the participating employers also have positions open based on locations, right? So like, for example, for us, we have one position in Vancouver, one position in Calgary, and then two positions either in Toronto or one in Toronto and one in Montreal. So each law firm has already made a decision about how many positions and where they have available. And so based on how that shakes out, so for example, our Calgary folks will only review applications that say, I am available to work in Calgary, and then they'll make the call and they'll make the outreach and so on. And so it's usually unlikely unless you have specified that you're able and available to work in that particular region that they're going to reach out to you. But what might happen is a law firm might schedule an interview with you and then decide that they would like to hire you, but they don't particularly have an opportunity at the city that you have listed. In that case, they might say, are you available, by the way, to work in this other city or that other city? And you might say yes or no. But hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Ida or Ida?
It's Ida.
Ida.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask because, yeah, I'm in my second year right now. So I am aware that if I do apply, I won't obviously be picked. But I just wanted to know, what is it that I can do? Like, what kind of other volunteer or maybe other internships I could do so that when I do apply next year, my application would be stronger? Like, what kind of things would it be good to be involved in? Because also as a second year student, it's like, obviously, like, you're not really going to get a law internship right now. So it's just like, specifically for like this program, is there anything else in terms of like maybe like extracurriculars or volunteer stuff that you guys look for?
Yeah. So the short answer is no, there isn't any particular set of experiences that we look for. And so in that sense, there is no right answer to give. But I will give you some range of examples of experiences that interns that have been successful in the past have had. So some were involved in initiatives like BFL, Black Future Lawyers, which is an undergraduate initiative, again, for Black undergrad students who are interested in law and interested in applying to law school and so on. So some of them were volunteers or executives of something like that. There may be a school association at the undergrad level, again, similarly for something like this. People have also written papers or around policy issues or legal/policy issues that they're passionate about, and they have worked on research projects around this. So not necessarily like a law per se yet, but something that shows your interest in how law works and how it interacts with society, how equity applies, and so on. Some people have just spoken about their personal experiences. Some people have very particular, compelling personal experience that got them interested in study of law, generally speaking, and then they talked about some of that. Some people have volunteer opportunities. Again, it doesn't have to be related particularly to law, but something that shows an interest in communities, how communities get together, how they function together, how it negotiates its position within the society, generally speaking, right? Because that's what law is, right? Like, how do we all get together and decide on a code of conduct, and how do we codify certain values and ethical promises that we would like to uphold as a society, and how does that manifest? So anything related to that kind of concern or that kind of interest is a good one. So I would say rely on your own personal motivations as to why this is interesting to you, and that should guide you in terms of how to highlight some of your experiences and put it together in a way that highlights the relevance.
That's like, because most other internships, they say that you should like have specific, volunteer experience or this experience. So I just wanted to know. So so that's really good. And my only other question is, like most of the I know different law firms, to my understanding, they specialize in different things. So when you're being picked by the law firms in our application, do you make it clear what kind of law you're interested in, or how does that work?
You do not have to. If you have an interest, by all means, do feel free to set it out. But you do not have to. There is no expectation that you would know anything about the particular area of law that you would want to focus on, let alone know what areas of law that's out there that's practiced by business law firms. But again, you know, some people have a very clear idea of what kind of things that they want to pursue and so on, and then they indicate that in their personal statement and their resumes, and their experience backs it up, right? So it's not you wouldn't necessarily just come up with it for the sake of coming up with it.
But I think that most of the law firms, like, it's pretty broad, like in all the
Exactly.
areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mary?
Mariah, I'm
Right.
not okay. Okay, so I know you said you mentioned that this is like for a specific group of students, so third, fourth, and recent graduates. What's recent to you? Like I graduated a year ago, so like
Totally fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
There is a question on the chat. For the resume, should it be written like that of a law school application or work? Not sure what the difference is between the two. If you're able to speak up or chat, I can follow up. But if it's about a particular like appearance or format, there isn't a particular appearance.
Her hand is up.
So would our resume have our prior employment? Oh, yeah. So it could include anything that you would like to highlight. It could include your academic background, your extracurricular involvement within school or within the community, your volunteer work, and of course your paid work, employment work as well. So it's like a record of the range of experiences and skill sets that you bring. So it would include any set of experiences that you do bring. Any other questions?
Yes, in relation to my question about the resume, most times if I'm applying for like a job with let's say a marketing agency, they would want me to highlight my experience with like creating campaigns, social media, but like for a law school application, they would want me to talk about research, policy, such things. So I was wondering what route are we going to use when drafting our resume?
Oh, I see. In that case, I think consider it more similar to law school application. So anything related to your business admin skills like social media, marketing, and so on, relevant. So do put it in. But we do want to know generally your core skills in essentially reading, writing, researching, which is the bulk of what lawyers do for the most part. There may be some administrative things involved in terms of project management and teamwork and so on. But I think generally speaking, your academics and then some amount of indication of your teamwork is a relevant indicator. And then if you have additional skills, as you say, relating to social media, marketing, or any other types of experiences, do put that in, because often law firms and other organizations, being what they are, they will have many different opportunities within the organization, and whatever skills you have, they will want to leverage that and kind of involve you in whatever projects that might be going on at that time. But generally do focus on those core skills. Thanks, Matara. I think Clifton first and then Thomas second.
I'm just curious on, be curious this last summer, I came so close to doing the program last summer. So what's the work day like Is it like 9 to 5? Is it virtual? Is it in the office? Is it hybrid? Is it a combination of both? And also, second part of that is, how do you go about, if you are selected, how do you go about covering the legal expenses? Do you just submit something to the firm afterwards, or is there, like, if I have an LSAT expense or LSAT course, do I just pay for that and then get reimbursed later, or how's the functionality of that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So those questions will be administered and dealt with by each of the employers, but there are going to be enough commonalities that I can give you the answer now. So in terms of workday, most of the law firms are on hybrid schedule. So you will have certain set number of days that you will need to commit to, either 3 days or 2 days or 4 days at the office. And you will be given an office space, you will come in, you will mingle and interact with the people there. My suggestion generally, like, I don't think anybody will be on a 5-day in-person in the office schedule, but my recommendation, generally speaking, probably better for you to be in person, because as I said, the bulk of the major benefit is for you to create networks and get to know folks and so on. Yes, it'll be 9 to 5. And in terms of how each organization manages that may be different from firm to firm, but generally that would be the expectation. There may be some evening socials that are available to you that you may optionally attend. So as I said, all the Avenue cohorts get access to certain social and professional development. Some of that might take the form of a cocktail reception, so that it starts from 4 p.m., maybe open until 6:30, and so on. And then each organization may make some social events available to you, which may occur in evening. Of course, all of those are completely optional and you do not have to attend. But again, opportunities for you to engage with the folks and community in general. In terms of expenses, so you're talking about the bursary, the 3,000 bursary. Again, different firms take different approaches, but generally speaking, all the participating firms are aware of their obligation to cover up to 3,000, and they will administer in different ways. Typically, I would assume that you would pay for it first. You will let your contact person within the organization know. They might require digital copies of the receipts for their files, and once you send that over, they will ETF you your reimbursement, just as they would pay you your PR to pay, or they might send you a check regardless of how that's administered. So it could happen during the internship process. It could happen after the internship process. So we've had some interns who, at the time they applied and accepted, they had already applied and had been accepted to law school. So they were expecting to go into their first semester of law school come September. So then by the time the summer internship started, they had already paid for some of these fees that are relevant. And so in those cases, they will submit their expenses already, and then they'll just get reimbursed. For the students who are slightly junior, your prep and your other kind of fees might probably will occur after the internship program. So then at that point, you'll just email them back and say, hey, I was an intern at, during this time, pursuant to the agreement for the internship program, I'm eligible for up to 3,000. Can you let me know what the process is for getting reimbursed? And then they'll manage that for you. Excellent. Thomas?
I have a two-part question, and my apologies if you already mentioned it and I missed it, but where do we go exactly to apply, and when does the application process start and close up?
Excellent questions. And no, I have not shared that yet. So I'm gonna copy the link to the Avenue website in the chat. This website includes a section, a very helpful section called Frequently Asked Questions that will generally cover an overview information about the internship program. Sponsors and partners section, which lists all of the participating employers. There may be some more, as I mentioned, there are some who still want to participate for 2024. But the ones that are listed on the page are at least confirmed ones, and the ones that have been doing the program for a while now. And then the application tab, which is where you can submit your application. So when you scroll down, you'll see that it has a whole bunch of things, information that you have to put in, your name, email, phone number, and then eligibility criteria, checkboxes, and then scroll further down, you will see ability to upload your CV, resume, personal statement, transcripts, and references. Excellent. Any other questions from anyone?
Can I ask you one last one quick?
And
Yeah.
I go right after, sorry. Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mariah.
Oh,
See
okay.
Mary, and then Mariah. Mariah, go ahead. You go first.
Thank you.
I have one last quick question.
Very, very quickly. So just to clarify, for the CV, you said that you would recommend we include all work experience, even if it's not relevant specifically to legal careers, or not to include that?
Yes, do include that. I would put a cap on something, like maybe don't bother including work experience from high school, like things that are too far back.
Okay.
But things that are up to, current all the way to like maybe 3-4 years in the past.
Okay. So for example, if you have like a high school job or university job that has no relevance to the legal career, but it highlights, for example, your customer service skills or your ability to work on a team, include that.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Clifton?
Amy, I take it that because you said you've met previous candidates that you do interviews too. Are you part of the interview process?
I did last year, or I did last round. This round I will not be
Okay.
for neutrality, because I'm serving as co-chair of the recruitment committee. That means I need to step out of the recruitment process altogether.
So for the benefit of us who are on the call with you, we know it's very I was last year over 300 people applied, and there's only 30 spots, so that's like a 10% of the people who apply get a spot. So I'm interested. Obviously, the interview process is critical, and if there's any tips or things that they look for in the interview process for the candidates, since we're on the call, we get privy information.
Yes, of course.
What you're looking for.
Interview process. I would say, I think different organizations will take different approaches, I'm sure. So I'll just say about what we do. By the time we are meeting with candidates at an interview process, we already like them a fair bit. So a lot of the work is done at the application process or application stage. The interview for us, just for us, is to check for red flags, right? If there's somebody who's like not really interacting, or if we ask a question, the answer isn't quite reflective of what's written in it, like that kind of thing. So generally, if you can talk in a friendly, confident, and ethical manner about the set of experiences that you have listed and represented, and if we can confirm that what you have said in your application is true, i.e. you are thrilled about the process and the opportunity, you are clear about why you are seeking this opportunity, you can talk intelligently about your set of experiences, generally you will be in a good stead. Things like some understanding of kind of the professional context and the business context and the work context might be useful, right? And I don't mean anything fancy by that, other than to say, like, if you've gone through interviews with other employers in the past, generally speaking, you know how to present yourself. You understand that this is a business context, not a friendly call chatting between random people who want to get to know each other, and so on. Generally helpful. Again, I can't speak about how different employers approach this. At Osler, we are slightly more casual with our interviews, but even then, my assumption is that will come across as very polished and professional for most of the students, just because that's the environment that we're very used to. And so somebody who can kind of converse with that kind of vibe probably helpful. But yeah, I think by the time we get to interviews, we're just searching for red flags.
Do you want us to know what the firm does? Like, there's their areas of business, expertise, history. Does that impress you at all? Like, is that important?
It is not expected at
Okay.
all. If you know something about us, it might impress some interviewers because it's an extra. But there are plenty of very successful applicants who we are very thrilled about, who have zero clue what any of the firms do at the time of the interview. So completely not expected. Okay, I think we're running.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Thank you.
Danielle, did you want to make wrap up comments?
Yeah, just on behalf of the BBPA, I just wanted to thank you so much for being with us tonight and for sharing about this amazing opportunity. You provided so much information about the program in general and just so many great tips on the application process. And I also just wanted to thank our participants for being here tonight, for coming out and for asking great questions as well. A lot of you thought of things I wasn't even thinking about, so really insightful stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. And yes, it's about 6:30. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
You as well. Thanks.
Good luck with the process.
Yeah, good luck, everybody.
Fingers crossed.